Christmas Eve. And I know a lot of families across the world have great expectations for Christmas morning. Great expectations. You know, it's kind of an idyllic thought to think that Christmas Day would be a perfect experience for all of us. I mean, we've read the stories, we've seen Hollywood's recommendations about Christmas and so on and so forth. Hallmark movies are all over the place, and everything tends to be that wonderful, perfect, idyllic scene and setting of Christmas morning. There's all the family gathered together, and everybody is healthy, everybody is wealthy, they're all wise, the family is very close to each other in relationships. There's not a single angry word to be said. Certainly there is no disruption whatsoever in the relationships. That would be perfect, wouldn't it? Maybe throw in a little snow for some people to have a white Christmas. A lot of people are dreaming of a white Christmas, and a lot of people are going to have it this year. And yet, whatever your thoughts are of the perfect Christmas, it's not going to be there for the most part, because we are humans and there are circumstances. We are in a COVID situation where a lot of people in our church family, are not able to see their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and a lot of children are not able to see their parents because travel is becoming somewhat of a challenge, to say the least. And yet, Christmas morning, there's going to be a lot of discouragement, I think, out there as a result. There are children that will be waking up with expectations of Christmas presents that they're not going to receive because of parents' financial issues, difficulties, or whatever the case might be. It's just not going to happen. There's going to be a lot more disappointment than wonderful expectations being met on Christmas morning. Well, I just want to take you back 2,000 years to that Christmas morning. There was Mary and Joseph. Joseph was engaged to be married to Mary. It kept her by his side, decided, according to the angel's instructions, not to put her away because she was pregnant. The Bible tells us in Luke 2, in those days Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house of the line of David. Now, 70 miles from Nazareth to Bethlehem. You're a man who wants to do the very best for your wife who is 9 months pregnant. She either has to walk or ride. There's no indication that she rode a donkey or a horse or anything of that nature. We don't know how she got there. But it was a 70-mile trip for a woman in her 9th month of pregnancy. Some of you women out there that have actually given birth to children already are thinking about how uncomfortable and hard of a trip that must have been. And then they get to Bethlehem. Why did they have to go? Because the Roman government was raising their taxes and they needed to be counted to determine how many people were in the region to have taxes levied upon them. If you weren't a Jew, you were going to be conscripted into the Roman army. What a joyous Christmas that was, huh? And then, if that didn't make matters worse, they come to an inn trying to find a place to stay. There was no room for them in the inn. The Bible says she wrapped her baby in cloths and placed him in a manger, a feed trough, because there was no room for them in the inn. Now, think, we guys like to provide for our ladies, and we like to provide for them the best of we can. It's a hard enough journey, that 70-mile trip on that first Christmas, and yet now there was no motel space, no room and board. So they had to stay in a stable, whatever that might have been, whether it was carved out of a cave, out of a rock side, or whether it was simply a wooden stable. We don't really know, but we just recognize the fact that it was a place where the animals were kept. That's where they stayed. So here he was with the smell of dung and hay, gathered around by animals, thinking to himself, this is not what I had envisioned. This is not what I anticipated, and I'm sure Mary expected a lot more out of me than what I provided. So it was not a good Christmas for them. And so there was Mary in that situation, surrounded by those animals and those nasty smells in that stable scene, giving birth. We talk about silent night, holy night. It was anything but silent when a woman is giving birth pains. When she is about to deliver a child, silence is not the order of service. And so here was a baby that came into the world screaming, clawing, scratching his way into this world. And it was not a scene that was silent night. It was a holy night, but it certainly wasn't silent. And so you think about your expectations on that Christmas morning. As Joseph tried to prop himself up after the birth of that baby, where there was no midwife, no nurse. We like to think of our births as being something in a real sterile environment, at least with somebody assisting in the labor process, taking that baby and placing that baby in sterile, clean cribs, beds that were prepared for them well in advance. And here is Mary wrapping that baby in somewhat strips of rags that she lays him in a feed trough. Joseph is thinking, I'm not much of a provider at all. This is not anything that I had anticipated. Mary is delighted that the experience is over. Then she looks in the face of her child, and it makes it all worthwhile. Well, I don't know about your expectations, but I think in spite of COVID, we need to look back and realize there were no Christmas lights. There were no presents. They didn't even have family gathered around them. No women in the family line to assist with the birth, to assist with Mary's needs. There were none of that. They were up there all by themselves, just waiting for their baby to be born. Wow. What are your expectations this Christmas? I think we need to recognize the fact that above all things, Jesus came into the world for you, for me. He came into this world. The Bible says he came. It wasn't that he was just born. He literally left his heavenly dominion. He literally left heaven, for he said, I came into this world. It wasn't that he was just born. He entered into this world for you and for me. That our Christmases would be far different. Not only that, that our Christmas yet to come, one day with him, will be something that your eye hasn't seen, your ears haven't heard about. It hadn't even entered into the heart of man, the things that God has prepared for those of us that love him. I pray that you have a very Merry Christmas and that Jesus himself will be so real and near to you as a result of your experiences. God bless. Merry Christmas.